Shana Tova. What a year. The big news from my family is that we finally adopted a dog. Benny Zahav, Benny for the Elton John song, and Zahav because he has a beautiful golden coat. He came to us through a local rescue from the Appalachian Mountains of Virginia. The first thing I learned from adopting Benny is this: we are always beginners, and being a beginner is good. Although I have loved and cared for dogs for most of my life, really all of my life, I am a beginner with Benny. These past weeks have been filled with unexpected revelations, both happy and hard. Benny loves to crunch green beans. He makes dramatic noises when he sleeps, which the vet says are his dreams, maybe about green beans. He cries when we leave him alone. He does not like shots. He panicked during our first trip to the vet for his routine vaccinations, and he almost literally wiggled his way out of the room. By the time we returned for his boosters, we had learned his favorite treat, and so I deftly distracted him with a pepperoni stick. Benny often gets the zoomies. Who knows about dog zoomies? Okay, so many of us, but not everyone, so I'll tell you. This is when a dog performs ecstatic sprints at ultra high speed, zooming around in a blurry ball of energy, exuberant at the joy of running around and around, which transforms even a mundane living room into a sight of magical silliness as he seemingly discovers everything for the first time. I am learning, and I am still very much a beginner with him. I am a beginner at knowing his needs, at listening to him as I figure out how to do this all over again in a new stage of my life. So every day I remember that there is challenge and also enormous potential and energy in being a beginner. We can approach ourselves and our relationships and our community with the energy and expansive possibility of beginners. Because in truth, we are always beginners, whether we realize it or not. Every day, and especially today, we are beginners. On Rosh Hashanah, the first day of our new year, the birthday of the world, a day of new beginnings, we recall, we reenact, and connect with that spark of the creation of the world, when maybe God was a beginner too. Later this morning, at the centerpiece of the Musaf Amidah, after each of the 3 sets of shofar blasts, we will sing Hayom Harat Olam. This poem is ancient. It appears exactly as in the 9th century prayer book of Rav Amram of the Gaonic Academy of Surah, the earliest template we have for our modern Machzor, the prayer book that we're using for the holidays. In the first 3 words, Hayom Harat Olam, we proclaim, today, Hayom, is the day of Harat Olam, when the earth came into being. The words literally mean the gestation or the conception of the world. Translated in our Machzor as, today the world stands as at birth. God created the world today, or maybe God was inspired to create the world today. The rabbis of the Talmud debate this back and forth for pages to no full resolution. But using either metaphor, today we celebrate the growing potential of a day of new possibility and beginning. I imagine that moment when God had that first kernel of creativity. Perhaps God paused and smiled and said, how would I go about that? I love that idea. We all know that first inkling of excitement when we sense that we're onto something. So today is the anniversary of when God was really onto something. To ask those first questions, to begin to find and to figure out, to allow ourselves to become curious, to wonder, is to be beginners. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel teaches that wonder stimulates us to seek out learning, but that expertise is not the ultimate goal. We must maintain, in his words, wonder as a form of thinking. It is not the beginning of knowledge, but an act that goes beyond knowledge. It does not come to an end when knowledge is acquired. It is an attitude that never ceases. Heschel's concept is not exclusive to Judaism. In the secular sciences, there is a psychological experiment called the candle problem. Subjects are given a candle, so picture this, a candle, matches, and a box of tacks. Their objective is to affix the candle to a wall. So if this is a candle, affix the candle to a wall in a way so that it can be lit without dripping wax on the floor. It turns out this is not easy. Some people try to use the tacks to clip the edge of the candle to the wall. Some try to melt the wax to use it as an adhesive. Most don't realize that the box of tacks itself is the perfect candle holder, and that a few tacks will easily attach it to the wall, and that this will hold the candle upright. Many struggle with the candle problem because of a phenomenon called functional fixedness. Over time and through our experience in the world, we assign objects certain particular functions, and those functions become fixed in our minds. So who do you think excels at the candle problem? I heard some rumblings. According to a study published in the journal Cognition, the answer is 5-year-olds. Younger children are more open and flexible about what can count as an object's function, not having to overcome years of assumptions that we've learned as adults. Again, there is enormous potential and energy in being a beginner. Zen Buddhism teaches, another tradition, that even experts should aim to keep what's called a beginner's mind, an openness to new ideas, a resistance to preconceptions. The saying goes, in the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities, but in the expert's, there are few. To keep these many possibilities, we need to keep our beginner's mind. Or in Heschel's words, we need to keep wonder as a form of thinking. But we are so oriented towards expertise. We strive to be experts ourselves, and we seek out the care and the company of experts. And of course, there's nothing wrong with striving or searching for the best, but we are missing an opportunity if we only value expertise and experience. Because we are all at our best when we honor the truth that we are all always beginners. With each relationship, each day, each year, each stage of our lives, we are always beginners. And that's good. That's more than good. That's miraculous. So how can we infuse our individual lives with this beginner energy? Over the past years, many of us, dislodged from routines, chose to explore new interests and learn new skills. From baking to art to gardening to pandemic puppies, we can continue to bring that beginner energy as we open ourselves to new rhythms in our family lives and in our work and in our learning. When I guide my B'nai Mitzvah students to write their Divrei Torah, I always encourage them to stay in that open and creative mode for as long as possible. Some arrive in my office for our first meeting with an idea that they have already discussed with their parents, maybe with their tutor, which is outstanding, A+. I certainly respect that work and initiative. And I still ask them to read their Torah portion from the beginning in English all the way through, and to note anything that they find interesting or confusing or beautiful or challenging or funny. I want them to notice when the Torah sparks for them. They have already spent months studying the melodies of trope and the exact pronunciation of biblical Hebrew. They have worked hard and acquired new skills, and they are deservedly proud of their accomplishments. We're in the final months, final weeks, and the rabbi asks them to start from the beginning. When I invite or persuade or nudge sometimes them to approach their learning with new eyes, sometimes they find that spark that leads to an altogether new idea that is more authentic and more exciting than the one they had planned. How can we infuse our communal lives, what we're doing here right now, with beginner energy? Emerging from a pandemic has made us all beginners in yet another way, as we are reimagining what it means to gather. We are doing this today differently than we have in years past. Many of us have a new appreciation for in-person presence. At the senior and back-to-shul barbecues, our ear-to-ear smiles, mask, or even from behind the mask, you can tell when someone is smiling. That was so heartwarming and really, really deeply healing. Learning with you brings me so much joy. And not only because you are thoughtful and curious and brilliant, though you are, but especially when together we are brave enough to study a new topic or to study in a new way together. In our prayer life here at Bethel, we are finding new ways to energize and engage. In addition to our traditional style service, what works or what might work for you? An interactive learners discussion format? A high energy, joyful musical ensemble? Some of these, of course, we have on offer. What about a more contemplative, soulful, quieter prayer? Do you want to be in shul? Do you want to be in your living room? Do you want to be outdoors? I invite you to join us in this creative conversation. When we approach our lives here at Bethel with beginner energy, we are able to be more present and flexible and authentic. When we don't assume that we already know, we are able to start again with new openness, hopefulness, and courage. So with the creativity of beginner energy, on this day when God was a beginner too, and in admiration of the 5-year-olds who so easily accomplish what we cannot, may we all find our way as beginners together in a year of blessing. Shana Tova.